The job now is to remove the shifter cables off of the transaxle. So there's two, you need to do both ends of the, where the cable is attached to the transaxle. So here's one cable. So one end is here. You can see it's the white plastic, and it connects to the other end, which is connected to just another part of the, I guess the transaxle. There's a second one here, and then here. So remove the end with a cotter pin first. So each of these two ends have a cotter pin. Just use a wrench or a screwdriver to pull them out. Mine broke, so I'm going to have to replace it later. And then this end over here, you have to put a little penetrating oil on. So I'm going to do that right now. There's the cotter pin. You can just pull it up by hand. It's it's not really a cotter pin. It's a piece of wire that's shoved through the hole and then bent. There's a washer on top of where the cotter pin goes through, so pull off each of the washers. And then I think my Celica is just a bit old, so there's two ways for the shifter cables to slide on. One is, this is the proper way I think, where there's a metal fitting that goes through this plastic hole. It just popped right off. This other one, right there, the fitting stuck to the mounting fitting, whatever you call it, and the plastic just popped off. I don't think that's going to be a problem. I'll pop it back on when I'm reassembling. There's a shim between this part of the cable and that mounting bracket right there, and I've got a little vice grip locked onto that. You apply some penetrating oil, let it sit for a while, let it do its job, and then put the vice grips on, and then just jiggle it, and eventually you'll get this shim to come up. Okay? And that's what it looks like. Then it's a simple matter, just push the cable back so the nut goes through the hole in the mounting bracket and lift up, and then it's out. Do that for the other one. I'm going to remove the drive axles off of the transaxle so I can drop the transaxle. The end of the drive axle protrudes from the hub right here. This is called a drive axle hub nut. It spins like a big nut. It's 12 point, 30 millimeters. Get exactly the right socket, because you'll damage the hub nut irretrievably. Otherwise, it would be almost impossible to get this thing off. You can see what I've done to brace this. I've just wedged a crowbar in there. I had somebody just sit in the car and pump the brake, okay, hard, while I did this. So you can do it either way. The drive axle, when I take it out, you can see, you can see it, there it is. It runs into the transaxle right there. You can see it on enter. So we'll take this drive axle out and be able to drop the transaxle. The hub nut is put on with about 170 foot-pounds of pressure. So what I do is I've got the 12.30 mil socket on there. I've got my half-inch socket, and what I've got now, I've just got a spare piece of pipe that I just lay onto the. I'm not going to do it because it'll fall off, but you lay it on, and then just that gives you the leverage to crank that down. Okay. Use something soft just to compress the drive axle through the hub. So I use a hammer, a little piece of wood. You can use a soft mallet with a brass punch, etc. This works fine. I lost the video on the drive axle accidentally, so I'm going to revise it with one little change. So there, I left off before I'd just taken the hub nut off, and then the drive axle connects from the hub into the transaxle. Now the transaxle is down there. This is I've already taken it off, so you can see the CV joint just sitting there. So to start off this process, just down here, and you can see I've already done it. See those three holes? There are three. This is the control arm. This thing here. 3 bolts. There's actually 2 nuts, I think, and a bolt. Just remove those. This swings out And when that swings out, you can then remove the drive axle. Just pull it; it'll just come out. Just pull that out, and this can swing free. To get the CV joint from out of the transaxle, just take a pry bar or something, and you have to wedge it up between the transaxle and the CV joint, and just gently as possible, pull on the drive axle and use the pry bar just to get the CV joint out of the differential on the transaxle. It just might take a while. So there's a couple of bolts that we need to get rid of. There's one peeking out right there. That connects the rear exhaust to the manifold. So we'll go. I'll creep back and show you that. All right. So there are the two bolts. I'm just creeping back under the car. So there's the rear exhaust. That's the oxygen sensor. Zoom in on the exhaust manifold bolts. They were in there a little hard, so I put some penetrating oil on them, and then I just used it's 14 ml wrench just to get them both off. Okay.